All right, guys. So today we are proving lines parallel. This is essentially the converse of what we have been doing. So if you remember what converse means way back from chapter 1 or 2, we talked about that. So remember, that's when we switched the hypothesis and conclusion, remember? So if today is Tuesday, then tomorrow is Wednesday. We swapped it to say if tomorrow is Wednesday, then today is Tuesday, remember? We're doing that same thing. We're going to do the converse of what we have been talking about. So if you think back to what we've been saying, I keep saying, if the lines are parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent. Or if the lines are parallel, then alternate interior angles are congruent. If the lines are parallel, then same side exteriors are supplementary, right? That's what we've been saying over the last couple days. Today, we're switching it around. Today, I don't know if the lines are parallel or not. How do you know? How do you prove that two lines really are parallel to each other? This is how you prove the converse. You show that you have a pair of corresponding angles and they really are congruent. The only way that lines can be parallel is by having corresponding angles that are congruent, or having alternate interiors that are congruent, or having same side exteriors that are supplementary. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that one of 5 things is true. And if any of those 5 things is true, then the lines have to be parallel. That's so cool. So I get to pick from these 5, whichever it's going to change for each situation. But let's go ahead and get these 5 things down. All right. So 4-4, proving lines parallel. We're going to say to prove 2 lines are parallel, one of the following must be true. Okay, it doesn't matter which of these, you just need one of them. One of these following things you have to show. So your first option is to show that you have a pair of corresponding angles congruent, which remember, congruent just means equal. So if you can show me that you really do have corresponding angles and they really do have the exact same measure, that means you have to have parallel lines. There's no way to have corresponding angles not be equal if they're going to be parallel. Okay? So, cool. I get that. My next option is to have a pair of alternate interiors congruent. Okay, so it doesn't all have to rest on corresponding. I could show that I have alternate interiors congruent, or my other friends, the alternate exteriors. Okay, there's 2 more. I am going to pause right here and just give you a minute to make sure that you are caught up. You need to have this list written down somewhere. I found out, I think, in B block, when I got to it, kids hadn't written these down. And I'm like, A, first of all, why aren't you taking notes? B, you need them. Okay, so please do make sure that you are writing these down if you haven't yet. Okay, so I need any one of these 3 pairs of angles to be congruent or equal to each other. If I have that, it's a done deal. I have parallel lines. I don't have to wonder anymore. Now, the next 2, I don't necessarily want them to be congruent to each other. I want them to be supplementary. That's my same side interiors. So if I have a pair of same side interiors? Oops. I want them to be supplementary. I don't want them equal. I want them supplementary. So remember, that just means that they add together to be 180. That's what I'm looking for. If I have two same side interiors and they add to be 180, my lines have to be parallel. And then my last option, the last of the 5 ways to prove without a doubt that 2 lines are parallel, is to do the pair of same side exteriors also being supplementary. Okay, these are your 5 options. Show me one of these 5 things is true, and you have parallel lines. If you can't show me that one of these 5 things is true, guess what? You don't have parallel lines. It's just that easy. You have one of these, they're parallel. You don't, they're not. Well, I actually kind of take that back. I don't have enough to say for certain that they're parallel. So we're going to assume that that's a no. All right. There are certain scenarios where, yeah, maybe they could end up being parallel, but I wouldn't have enough information to prove that they are. So I just go with a no. Okay, so make sure that you have all of these written down. I'm going to draw for you 6 scenarios down below, and we're going to try and see if we can figure out you know what I'm even going to say, are lines A and B parallel? And I'll just label them in each one. So we'll walk through one of them together. So give me a minute to just draw the 6 scenarios. Make sure that you have everything listed above, because that's going to be off the screen in a minute. And you're going to need to reference this list. Okay, let me mark everything. Okay, you guys ready? Everybody has everything written up top? I'm going to take your silence as a yes. All right, here we go. So let me move this down here. So here you have 6 different problems, and the question is the same in all of them. Are lines A and B parallel? So I'm going to do the first one with you. We're just going to do this very first one out together. So I take a look, and I notice, remember what this notation means. You know what, I'm going to zoom in on one so we can kind of talk about it more closely. Okay, so in my first scenario here, I have these 2 angles marked with a single red arc. That notation means that those 2 angles are equal to each other. So what I would do is I'm going to ask myself, well, what's the name of these 2 angles, the name of their relationship? out of our 6 corresponding alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side interior, same side exterior, blah, blah, blah. So I asked myself, I'm like, oh, those are corresponding angles, aren't they? Same seat, different table. They're both in the top left of their little groups. Okay, so these are corresponding, and they are marked congruent. So what I have in this picture are corresponding angles that are congruent. You see that? Corresponding angles that are congruent. So then I'm going to go back up to this list of 5, and I'm going to see, is that one of the things that will get me parallel lines? You bet your bottom dollar. Take a look. It's the very first one. I do have a pair of corresponding angles that's congruent. Because I have one of these 5 things, that means, yes, my lines must be parallel. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm going to say for number 1. Yes, these 2 lines have to be parallel because I have a pair of corresponding angles that are congruent. So I'm going to give a big old yes on this one. So now let us all turn our attention to number 2 here. I'm going to try the same thing. I see I have 2 angles that are marked congruent. I'm going to ask myself what the name of those 2 angles is. And then look up above and I'll see if that pair of angles should be congruent. Maybe it's supposed to be supplementary. I don't know. I got to look at the name. And then you should have enough information to tell if these 2 lines are going to be parallel or not. Would anyone like to volunteer for this first one?
I'll volunteer.
Go ahead. Are they parallel, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Why? What are these 2 to each other?
They're alternate interior.
Yes. So because these are alternate interiors and they're marked congruent, let me look. Oh, hey, look, it's the second one down. If I have a pair of alternate interiors that are congruent, I have parallel lines. Yes, I do. Okay, very nice. So this third one, try that one. Notice I don't have any angles that are marked congruent in this. That doesn't automatically mean that the answer is no. I got to stop and think. All right, I have an angle that's marked 100. I have an angle that's marked 80. Let me zoom in just a little bit if that helps. I got to ask myself, all right, what's the name of their relationship? And then I look, what is that relationship supposed to be? And are they? Does it fit or does it not? All right, do I have a volunteer for this one? Number 3?
Kaya.
Go ahead.
She says yes.
Yes, because these 2 are what? Yes, same side exteriors. And if I look at that list, same side exteriors are supposed to be supplementary if the lines are going to be parallel. And what do you know? 100 plus 80 is 180. So yes, I have same side exteriors being supplementary. And that's one of the 5 things that I could use. So I'm going to go with a yes. All right, let's try number 4 now. All right. Take a look at number 4 over here. Everybody take a minute. I do have 2 angles that are marked congruent. So I got to see, all right, do I have one of the 5 things listed up above? If you do, you're going to say yes. If you don't, you're going to say no. Anybody want to volunteer for this one?
Kaya? No.
Correct. These 2, look at number 4. Look at it carefully. These 2 angles actually have no relationship to each other, right? Run through our entire list. They're not vertical. They're not corresponding. And then if I do my, I have my transversal. So you might be thinking, okay, well, they're alternate something, but then you run into a snag, don't you? They're alternate, but then you have one on the interior and then one on the exterior. So when that happens, if you remember from the flow chart, usually it means that you have missed vertical or corresponding, but we didn't. This really isn't vertical or corresponding. These legit just don't have a relationship with each other. So I don't have any of the 5 things up above. I can't do anything with this. This is a no. No, I don't have enough information to say that those 2 lines are parallel. Nope. Can't do it. I can't do it. Too bad, so sad. I wish I could, but I can't. Sorry. How about number 5? Take a look at 5 now. Is this enough? Demetrius, tell me about number 5. Are these 2 lines, A and B, going to be parallel? Yes or no?
Yes.
Which of the 5 things above supports that?
Corresponding, because like it's on the same line.
So the problem is those actually aren't corresponding angles, though. Remember, corresponding means at their little dinner table, they're sitting in the exact same spot. So this one's in the top right. So top right over here would have been this guy. Do you see that? So these 2 are not actually corresponding angles. So does that change your answer?
No, but it's same side interior then.
Yes. So that, yeah. So same side interiors, right? These 2 are same side interiors. So now let's go back up and see what same side interiors are supposed to be. Oh, look right here. It says a pair of same side interior angles are supposed to be supplementary. So are these supplementary?
Yeah,
How do you know?
because it says it right there.
Well, this means congruent. That means that they're equal to each other. So remember, supplementary means that they add to be 180. These markings just mean that they are equal. So for example, it could be like 50 degrees and 50 degrees. But that doesn't add to be 180, does it? Right? That only adds up to be 100. These, I don't have enough information to say that they're supplementary. All I know is that these are 2 angles that are equal to each other, but they could be anything. Like I showed here, they could be 50 and 50. 50 plus 50 is not 180. So I would need to know without a doubt that these 2 angles add up to be 180. And I can't say that. I have same side interior angles that are congruent, but I need them to be supplementary. And I don't have that. So I'm actually going to say no on this one. I don't have enough information here. I got to say no.
That was a
Ooh.
little tricky.
This one is tricky, especially when we compound it with number 6. Because now number 6, look at what I have here. I have another pair of same side interiors. But this is different. So think about what we just said about same side interiors. We said we want them to be supplementary. So do I have enough information this time to say without a doubt that I have same side interiors that really are supplementary? What do you guys think? Someone give me anybody. Number 6. Are these parallel? Yes or no?
Got a yes vote.
Yes. Because I now know that these are both 90s, right? Because they're marked with a little box. So the box tells me that they're 90. So 90 plus 90, I know adds up to be 180. That's why 6 is going to be a yes, where 5 was a no. I hope that makes sense. Now, you might be thinking, well, Mrs. Sabia, what if these, yeah, they have to be equal to each other, but what if they were both 90? You're right. If they were both 90, then that would have worked, but I don't know that they're both 90. I can't go with well, maybe. It has to be without a doubt for a fact. They have to be equal or supplementary. And I don't know that. Because yes, even though there is a scenario where that does work, as seen right here, there's plenty of other scenarios where it doesn't work. If you're saying yes, it has to work 100% of the time. And in my example, where both of these angles are 50, that doesn't apply, right? This wouldn't work. They would not be supplementary. They're still equal. 50 and 50 are equal to each other, but they don't add to be 180. Remember, all you need is one counterexample to prove a statement false, right? And so my example of 50 and 50 would be a great counterexample there. Okay. All right, let's practice some more. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to focus on just numbers. So I'm going to give you numbers. Oops, sorry, that was kind of loud. I'm going to give you numbers, and we're going to see if we can figure out what the missing angles are going to be. Okay? All right, let me flip the page here. So this is going to feel very similar to what you did yesterday, but we're going to phrase the question just a tiny bit different. I'm going to ask you to find the value for x that makes the lines parallel. In your previous assignments, your lines have always been parallel. Okay, so now I'm trying to figure out what's the one and only one value that will make them be parallel. So let's sort of walk ourselves through an example. Say I had this, and let me see, I'm just going to make up some numbers here. Maybe this is, who cares, 110 degrees. And I wanted to know, what must the value of x be to get these two lines, let's just call them A and B, to be parallel to each other? Well, remember, one of the 5 things has to be true. These are corresponding angles, right? They're both in the top left of their little group. Same seat, different table. Okay, so I have to have corresponding angles be congruent to each other. That's the only way to make sure that these two lines are going to be parallel. I'd have to show that the corresponding angles are equal to each other. So the only option for x is to be 110 degrees. That's the only thing that would work here. If x were any other number, these two lines would not be parallel because I wouldn't have congruent corresponding angles. Okay, let's try another. What if I did something like this? If this were, oh, I don't know, 60, and I wanted to figure out, well, what would that angle have to be in order for these two lines to be parallel? Anybody want to give this one a shot? What must the value of x be in this scenario to ensure that lines A and B are parallel to each other?
X would have to be 120.
Yes, 120. Yes, because what are these two? They're same side interiors. So according to our chart on the other page, same side interiors have to be supplementary. So the only option in the whole wide world for x is to be 120. If it were anything other than 120, A and B are not going to be parallel to each other. So in this case, x has to be 120. All right, so it does have the same feel as what you've been doing. I am going to throw in a little bit of algebra. So let's just try one like, let's say 2x plus 5, and let's do 3x minus 15. Okay, I'm trying to get lines A and B to be parallel. So just like yesterday, I'm going to have to decide what equation I use. Should these two things be equal or should they be supplementary? Can someone tell me that? Should these be equal or should they be supplementary? Just tell me that part. Equal or supplementary?
Equal.
Yes, these are alternate interiors, aren't they? Alternate interiors. And what we have learned is that alternate interiors should be equal in order for the lines to be parallel. Okay, so that's literally my equation. I'm just going to do 2x plus 5 equals 3x minus 15. And I'm just going to solve my equation like I normally do. So you're going to see that a lot of this feels very similar to what we've been practicing. So, oops, sorry. I ended up getting 20 on this one. So that means if X has the value of 20, lines A and B will without a doubt be parallel. If X is any other value except 20, you're not going to have parallel lines. Oh, what fun. Okay, guys, so does anybody have any questions right now? Okay, I do want to give you a little bit of time just to at least get started on your assignment. I found out this last block, if I shut the camera off, but I don't stop the screen share, it stays up. So your homework, believe it or not, is actually going to be on, oh, you know what? I'm going to actually stop the video here because I think we're done.